So, development on Elden Ring Shadow of the Earth Tree expansion. You're going to edit that one out.
You should try that one again.
Development on Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree expansion is, quote, proceeding smoothly, according to From Software's parent company, Kadokawa. Dude, this is a mouthful, dude. All right, here we go. Development on Elden Ring Shadow. Oh my god, dude. This is freaking happening. Okay, no, just give me a sec.
Just ad-lib it, dude.
Okay. Hi, and welcome. This is Two Souls, and we welcome you. Okay, come a little closer. Come a little closer. This is episode 4. Are you ready for this?
I think so.
My name is George O'Mara. I'm joined here with my lovely co-host, Mark O'Mara.
Hello.
He is the second soul. Maybe he's the first and I'm the second. Who knows?
We're two souls, though.
But altogether, if I'm doing my math correctly, we got about 2 souls here. Not bad. Not bad. Thank you for joining us. And today we got some news for you. We got a little on the games. Yeah, we got a little Halloween treat we want to talk about. And then we'll close up with our what we're up to section. Yeah, does that sound good?
Yeah, I think that works.
So we're going to start with the news. A lot of news. Not that long. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot here, but we take it one step at a time. I think we'll get through this, yeah? Mm-hmm. You want to start or do you want me to start?
I can start.
Okay.
So first we have the PS5 Slim requires an internet connection for detachable disk drive. And so, you're going to need an internet connection in order to connect your disk drive.
Yeah.
So I think that's because it's literally just like, it just like clips on. It doesn't really connect in any way.
Yeah.
With the console. It literally just like clips on the side of it. So I'm wondering, like, that probably streams everything, huh?
You mean, like, what do you mean? Like, through an internet connection?
Yeah, like from the disk drive. Like, it's running on the disk drive and it, like, streams it to the console or something?
There's not a lot of info that we know about this just yet. This came by way of Insider Gamer, or Gaming, and it was showing that on the box it said somewhere that there was an internet connection that was needed. Someone got, like, a Call of Duty, like, special edition early, and it had that in the back. So we don't know if this is exactly because it's just like the installation. From what it looks like, it's in order to connect the disk drive. But then after that, I don't know if it's continuous.
This is also this bundle that the guy has a photo of is like a Modern Warfare bundle.
Yeah.
So that I wonder if that's for that too.
Yeah, but it does say that you need it in order to connect the disk drive. So, for those who are hoping to, get this new one, connect the disk drive, not have to have an internet connection, you're still going to need one.
Yeah.
So, just bear that in mind.
Just keep that in mind if you're getting these new ones.
Yeah.
They're probably going to stop making the old, like, the launch version, huh?
I would think, yeah. Yeah, this is just the new model. So,
nice.
Moving on, we got some Capcom news. So, I'll just take these next two, just kind of group them, because they're both Capcom news. So, Capcom reconfirms that they have an unannounced title that will sell millions by March 2024. This is by way of Reset Era. So, Capcom's released, a couple games this year, namely Street Fighter and then Resident Evil 4 Remake that's been pretty hot. A lot of people are speculating that this is either going to be Monster Hunter 6 or Monster Hunter World 2. A lot of people are saying that they're guessing it's probably going to be announced during Game Awards, which is in December, I believe.
Yeah, just to be clear on that, like Monster Hunter 6 is like the Nintendo typical release. That's isn't that the difference? Like World was the ones that came to like all the consoles, right? Because I thought that was like the whole thing with that.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know if Monster Hunter 6 or 5 rather in this situation, because 6 is we're still speculating.
Was 5 was?
But I don't know if that was Nintendo only.
No, that wasn't, because we had it on our PC.
Yeah, you're thinking Rise.
Yeah. Was that 5?
No.
That's separate, huh?
I don't believe so. That's a separate one.
So the mainline games, I think, are the...
This is like the mainline, like Monster Hunter. And so they're guessing, or people are speculating online and on the forums that it'll probably be announced during Game Awards, and the release would be obviously before March, because Capcom seems pretty confident that they're going to sell millions by March 2024. So that's something to look forward to.
Damn.
Yeah, Monster Hunter, huge franchise for Capcom.
Yeah.
And kind of in similar news, Capcom says it's on track for an 11th year of straight growth after strong sales So this year they released Street Fighter 6 at top $2.47 million worth of sales, or million sales. So that times the amount of the price of the game. And then you got the Resident Evil franchise, which just cleared 150 million games sold. So
Damn.
yeah, they're going pretty strong. Apparently, the majority of their growth is due to their digital contents side of their business. So a lot of people are just buying digital licenses. That's where a lot of the growth is. So
Hey, dude, we bought like both recent Resident Evils digital. We bought Street Fighter 6 digital.
yeah,
Makes sense. Everything's kind of going digital now.
yeah, it's becoming more and more ubiquitous.
Yeah.
So net sales are up 52.7% year over year. So they're going pretty strong. 11 consecutive years. That's good.
Yeah. Capcom's got some pretty. They've got a very strong, like, list of IPs that they have.
Yeah.
They're starting to like do a lot more with them. Like for the last like 4 years, 5 years, it feels.
Yeah.
Hopefully they keep pushing it, and I want to see more DMC because 5 was really good.
Yeah. Still haven't played that.
You got to play it, dude.
Yeah. And then you got the Resident Evil 6, or not 6, 5 remake
That-
that we're
yeah.
looking forward to.
Yeah, that's like pretty clear they're gonna do that. How 4 ended, they're like already teasing 5.
They just put out the DLC, the
Yeah,
801
those
DLC.
separated ways or whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, this is not on here, but I was reading somewhere where some rumors are starting to come out for Resident Evil 9. And that one's supposed to be the biggest Resident Evil to date. So I don't know if that means like spectacle, they're going to go really big with it or something, or if they're literally mean like it might be like a bigger map and more spread out and such. But I figure that kind of goes with all that Capcom news.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to stay with first person, for this next one.
Something tells me they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the new releases are like all first person, like since 7. And then these remakes are going to be like still like keeping the third person. Because we're getting like a pretty solid like drip feed of like third person Resident Evil and first person at this point.
Yeah.
And so something tells me they're going to keep that. Because I feel like they're trying to remake all of these, and I bet you they're going to remake through 6
Yeah.
to like line it up with 7 and onward. Because it's. I feel like there's more like the tone of the games since 7. Obviously, we only have 7 and 8, but like the tone is like more in line with those 2 games than they really ever have been from one game to the next. At least from like the first to second one kind of deal. But yeah, I feel like they're trying to just like line it all up more, so it's like it fits better. But next in news, we have No Man's Sky, and they reported that they generated £40 million in revenue in 2022,
Goodness.
which is up from 27 million a year before. And this is according to their company annual financial reports. This should help with getting their new project completed. And they mentioned back in 2022 on IGN that this new project would feel impossible to create even with 1,000 people behind it. So it's still very early in development also. We don't really... There's not a lot to go off with that.
Well, they said it's pretty ambitious. I was
I mean, No Man's Sky is ambitious, dude.
I know. I mean, how much more ambitious can this be?
And let's not forget, No Man's Sky was like almost completed in like 2014, 15?
Yeah,
Then they got flooded.
Yep.
Their whole studio got flooded, and they had to like basically restart development on that.
Yep.
So, it's impressive what they've been doing. I haven't really played too much No Man's Sky, but like I've seen enough of it to see like what they're doing, and it's impressive. It's very impressive. So
maybe they're working on tech to make the worlds a little more interesting.
Well, that's the thing with the flood, because from what I understood, like they had a lot of the stuff that they're adding in the DLCs. They were working on and having a lot of these things already kind of functioning. Then they got flooded. Like if you look at like the original what do you call it? Like the original gameplay reveals and stuff of the game. Like and obviously these things change over development, but the UI and like I don't know. I feel like the whole feel of like the aesthetic and stuff, like though it is definitely No Man's Sky and that didn't really change, like they definitely had something there, like it changed after the flood, like from the flood to the next time we saw it, like it changed, and I think that's due to like obviously remaking it all. But Yeah, from what I've been seeing, all those updates they've been adding have been mitigating that whole like intrigue in the different worlds problem that they had. But yeah, that's basically it. They're they're in early development, so we'll hear about that at some point.
Yeah, maybe next year, eh? 'Cause they're still
Maybe.
been pumping out those expansions and updates to No Man's Sky.
Yeah, they finally added like I don't know if it was recently at this point, but they added the worm, like the sandworms, because those were like in trailers from the original, like pre-flood.
Yeah,
They were in pre-flood.
the pre-flood
trailers.
worms.
Yeah,
Yep.
but now that it's post-flood and we got worms, so
Yeah, worms are hot nowadays. With all that dune. The Shai Khalud. So moving on. Got some new information regarding the layoffs at Bungie. So there's some pretty mass layoffs going on over there. This is via Paul Tassi on X, otherwise known as Twitter. So he tweeted that the layoffs are directly from Bungie management, not Sony. So Sony, from what we understand, purchased, a lot of Bungie and all that. So there's speculation that maybe it was Sony management. It was Bungie. Employee benefits, they're running through to the end of the month of October. So that kind of sucks. They're like, you're gone and your benefits are going to end.
at the time of recording this, they're already done.
They're done. Yeah, exactly.
It is November 2nd.
Yeah, this was
Where we're filming this.
actually 2 days ago
Yeah.
at the time of recording here.
When did all these layoffs
Yeah.
start? Like when did they get even notified of that?
I believe it was this last month. Yep.
Damn, dude. So they got notified and then they were like just laid off.
Yep. So they get shares, from being part of the company, and a lot of companies do this. You get shares, but then they have to like vest after you've been with them for a certain amount of years.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are not going to get to keep their shares because they got fired. So there's another little nail in the coffin. I don't know if that's the last one, but among those laid off, Bungie longtime composer Michael Salvatore was also laid off. He'd been composing music for them since '97. So
he was probably like the Halo. Actually, I don't know if he was, because there's a specific composer that did.
Martin McDonald.
Martin McDonald, there you go.
Yes. But yeah, our thoughts, prayers go out to the people that got laid off. Yeah, hopefully they can land on their feet.
I mean,
There's some weird stuff amiss at Bungie, dude.
I mean, the hope is that you'd assume some of these people worked on, like obviously they probably worked on Destiny. A lot of these people, if they're being laid off right now, and so Destiny's really popular. Hopefully they can find work after that.
Yeah.
But that sucks, man. That's really
it's
a really
unfortunate.
really short amount of time that they had.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very well managed, but
In more Bungie news, their recently announced Marathon reboot sequel. I don't know what it was supposed to be. All I know is that from what they said, it's not supposed to be what Marathon used to be.
it's Marathon in name mostly.
Yeah, it's just name and aesthetic, and then it was
Even the aesthetics changed a lot
'cause-
too.
Yeah. Marathon reportedly flopped amongst playtesters amid Bungie chaos. This previously talked about Bungie chaos. But it flopped amongst playtesters. It performed poorly with Escape from Tarkov playtesters. A quote from, I believe, one of them is, "If it was released tomorrow, we wouldn't play it."
Yep,
So that's pretty scathing, if you ask me.
that is.
If this came out, I wouldn't play it.
Yep.
Bungie tossed up the idea of changing Marathon from an extraction looter shooter to a battle royale, but canned the idea. Now, I think both of those ideas are pretty bad. To be
Why
honest.
not do a first-person narrative-driven shooter the way Marathon was?
Make the next Marathon?
Yeah.
It's such a cool there's a lot of cool stuff with that franchise too. I think the name's tight. It's it's a cool name for what it is, and the lore and the stuff that you do know about it. It's really cool. And the last time we saw it was man, I don't think they were really even doing 3D games yet.
It was still during that kind of Doom era.
Yeah, it was like the 2D, 3D
Yeah.
kind of deal. Most of the team working on Marathon are people who worked on Destiny that kind of explains why it's a looter shooter extraction game. And upper management is apparently full of unknown people. So,
No.
Do with that what you will.
It just sounds like Bungie in general, they're trying to go for like the cash cows. They're like, Destiny 2 is making a lot of money. We can sell a lot of expansion packs to people and players.
It's the cash cow, but I think more specifically,
to make Marathon what they're making it.
Yeah, I think more specifically, it's like that games as a service thing, because it's like even battle royales are like, for the most part, they're like games as services usually, where it's like, okay, you have a battle pass, so you're buying monthly, or not monthly, but like seasonally, and it's like usually like a couple months for each battle pass, 3 months, whatever, and. Actually, no, because I'm thinking like Fortnite. Fortnite's like 40 days, right? For each season?
I'm not too sure, actually.
I believe it's like 40 days.
It's definitely not a month. It's more than a month.
I remember they used to be longer, but they're shortening them, and a lot of these games are like games as service, and if you get into it and you pay into this service for a while, then you end up kind of like feeling betrothed to it, because you're like I feel that with Fortnite to an extent, where I'm like, dude, like, they're going back to season 1, like, or chapter 1 map, and I'm probably going to load that in because I'm like, I wanted to check out the map again. Like, I have a lot of memories on that one, but I feel like betrothed to the game to an extent, because I'm like, I have all these skins, and I've spent X amount of money on all these skins and stuff, and then you see the next battle pass, and there's maybe a skin you like, and you're like, okay, well, I might as well get this.
Yeah, I'm seeing
and
it
feels like Bungie's trying to like Destiny is like the looter shooter thing, and there's also seasons to that, and then there's like their DLC they're doing like for the different like expansions and stuff. I guess that's not necessarily like a games as a service, but it's the way that they're doing it is definitely leading more into that, and them trying to do a battle royale with this. I'm like, it is what it is, I guess, but
yeah,
it seems like they're trying to do that whole thing of just like these franchises that they can have going forever kind of deal, or seemingly forever.
Yeah, I'm seeing that the seasons last like on average around like 75 to 83 days.
80?
83.
83?
Yeah, they're around there somewhere.
So yeah, it's like almost like 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a bit to have someone in there,
Yeah.
If you can convert that to sales, it looks pretty good for your bottom line, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we'll continue to see what happens, and we'll update you guys on Marathon News as we get it.
See if they course correct properly. Yeah. Whatever that is.
Yeah, in line with other course corrections that are hypothetical at this point, but also rather probable considering the remakes that we've been getting. Dead Space 3 producer Chuck Beaver said that he would almost redo it almost completely. So in an interview with, or on the Captain Brebo, I don't know what that is, Captain Brebo, but they have a podcast and he was on it. They interviewed him. And he said that they, quote, weren't allowed to make a horror game from the beginning.
So they just wanted action.
They wanted, yeah. So that explains a lot, actually.
Because that game's like not scary.
Yeah. So this is where the expansion into other gameplay genres came from, and apparently that's the way Chuck put it. He goes, they lost old players and they didn't really gain any new ones with that. So we know like Dead Space 3 didn't do too well in terms of sales. No. And he said that he would redo the entire game, saving the quote lore beat it's predicated on, the lore you find out, and then maintain the way the two characters see things differently. But apart from that, he would want to change like most everything. So, we'll see. We got Dead Space remake this year for the first one. Looks like 2's more than likely going to happen. The first one sold really well, and there has been like this trend in gaming where they're like bringing these franchises back and like revamping them, in particular like with Resident Evil. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Maybe we get to Dead Space 3 and they actually make it a horror game.
Like the remakes.
Oh my goodness, how crazy would that be?
I feel like there's a lot of that going on right now. Like, I mean, I guess it's not a lot of it, but at least with like Resident Evil and then now Dead Space, you've got like, like it's like remastered, but it also feels like course correcting.
Yeah.
To like make it feel right with the whole franchise.
It's like that hindsight where they look back and they're like
that was
this is where we misstepped.
Yeah.
Let's try to fix that. Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. These are like really beloved franchises, and it has been long enough. Speaking about being long enough, I think GTA 5 has been released for long enough.
Yeah, we've got enough remakes or
Been
updates.
It's been 10 years since GTA 5 released.
Yep.
And with that, we're starting to get a lot more news for GTA 6.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the new news we got now is that GTA 6 has patented a new locomotion system to make, quote-unquote, highly dynamic and realistic animations. Now, Tobias Kleinthous,
I think you said it right the first time.
Kleinthous. Tobias Kleinthous worked for Rockstar between 2014 and 2021, late 2021. He was the lead inventor and author of the patent, and the patent is called the System and Method for Virtual Character Locomotion. The
Very
system
official.
yeah.
Yeah.
The SMVCL.
That's how we shortened it to.
The system is built up of various blocks of animations that the system will use to build dynamic animations for certain situations, like walking in rain, feeling tired, or getting injured. This eliminates the need to do separate animations for each situation. So, it's probably going to help the development.
Like, how would that work for? Because when I was writing this, I'm like, okay, so they have like a block for like left feet, block for right feet. Like maybe they like block it based off of the rigging of the model, and then they kind of create, I guess, maybe variations of that where it's like slow, fast, belabored. I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out.
I need to know more information, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think what it is like, you've got, like, a walking animation, and then there's variations for different, like, statuses or whatever, or statuses. So it's like, if you're, like, walking in rain, like, you're probably going to walk a little bit different. Or if you're, like, in, like, I think a good example is, like, if you're walking on solid ground versus, like, on sand, like, you walk differently. And so I bet you there's going to be, like, variations of, like, walk animation for, like, what terrain you're walking on or whatever. Or if you're, like, injured and then you're walking on sand. And so
Or if you're, like, stepping on pebbles with or without shoes.
Yeah, because then at that point...
It reacts to the pain from the pebble. Like, it's just like...
yeah, because then I would imagine at that point you could, like... You could kind of just... I don't know. I'm trying to think. I need to know more information, to be honest, on how this is, like, built and works.
Well, apparently the reason they're doing this,
too... It makes sense.
Apart from easing the development of having to do, like, separate animations. I mean, I don't know how much easing a development it did. I mean, it's 10 years out from, like, GTA 5. Like,
yeah, but that's going to help moving forward.
Moving forward, it'll help, much like the testicles on the horses in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now we don't have to worry about that. The tech's there. But apparently the reason why...
The shrivel tech.
The shrivel, it's very important. A response to changes in temperature.
The ST.
Apparently a big reason why they're doing these separate... Or this animation patent and all of that is so they can make the game more immersive and realistic. And so I ask you, I pose this question to you. Do you want your GTA to be more realistic?
Well, it feels like they kind of take different approaches to each game. GTA 4 is a lot more like gritty and grounded, and there's a lot of parts where you're like just having a shootout like in a house or like a little apartment in like New York or whatever, or what was it called? Liberty City?
Yeah, New York.
It's New York.
Yeah. It's Newark.
And then like GTA 5 feels more lighter, like it doesn't feel as heavy.
It's more LA.
Yeah, it's more like wow.
It's more like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So sunny.
And then like GTA 4 is more like, I'm walking here. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I get you.
Yeah, so like...
It's very realistic.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the realism in like a GTA 5 is like, like you like kind of run into like a wall, like fence or whatever, like a little weirdly. He just and he falls over and just like spins in the air. So realistic. I can't wait to see how realistic GTA 6. Here's my concern. All kidding aside, that's the reason I asked you the question. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, I don't want Resident Evil or RDR 2 freaking GTA 6.
Well, that made sense to be a little more realistic. Let's
Yeah,
be
it's a
honest.
Western.
And that was based off of like you were saying. I don't know if you said it a little earlier, but like it was based off of like the GTA 4 engine.
Yes,
So it was a little more weighty.
GTA 4 was like really
know.
heavy.
Like
But it's the
GTA,
same thing for Red Dead 2.
but like Grand Theft Auto in general. I mean, like let's be straight, guys.
It's more
like,
zany.
It's more zany. It's always had that like what's the word? Like it's that whole like social commentary. Like it's very
Satire.
Like, the satire. Thank you. That's what I was looking. I was thinking.
Very satirical.
There's a lot of caricatures, that kind of thing. And I'm like, but at the in the center of the gameplay, it's like you're a criminal,
Yeah.
and like
Heist.
you're doing heists. You know, you're robbing the liquor store.
Well, I think that's even part of the thing. Like
I'm like, do we really want this to feel more realistic, or
well, so
do
this is
we?
the thing. Is 4 feels more realistic, but when you look at the story, it's more like it's more like gang wars in the relationships between these different gangs and like these higher ups in it and stuff like that.
And 5's like just
And
like growing up in LA. You know?
5 is just like a heist. It's just like a heist story. And
Yeah.
there is, and so it's like
Could
it
see
makes
that.
sense for that to be lighter and more
saying.
fun and all that. This one, like, and I don't think it's been confirmed, but there's been like, especially when all that gameplay leaked, like it was pretty clear that that was true. But there is like rumors that came out about like they're gonna have multiple characters again, but it's gonna be 2, and they're gonna be like these twins, and like one of them's like this like girl that's like I want to say she was like in like gangs or something, and is doing all that kind of stuff, and then the brother is like working for like the FBI or something, and like he's trying not to like have to, he's like trying to get her to like get clean with her whole thing, and then he ends up kind of getting dragged into stuff, and because there's a lot of stuff like that came out, and then when the gameplay came out, like you could see that some of that stuff was there, just like in the UI, like being able to change characters and stuff.
They should make GTA where like you play 2 characters and one is like a drug addict that's like on the streets, you know, early 20s, somewhere around there. And then you get like the other guy and he's like
I feel like you're making
like late 50s or something. Yeah, you tracking?
Okay.
You with me? Are you with me? You know? Okay, like late 50s. And you have him be like a school teacher at a high school. Have him teach chemistry. Yeah. And then he finds out that he has cancer. Okay. And then they have some sort of meet cute.
His name is Bobby Black.
Bobby Black, yeah, and then you've got
You've got Jeremy
Whiteman. You know, and they like meet, and then he's like, "Yo, like, I'm doing
like-
drugs. I learned the chemistry from you, Mr. Blackman." You
Mr.
know,
Bobby Blackman.
Bobby Blackman.
Blackman.
Blackman. You know, I think that'd make a good GTA, honestly.
But yeah,
The other guy like turns bad. The other guy's like turns good. It's kind of like a juxtaposition kind of thing.
But
This
yeah,
is off the top of my head.
Yeah, they're gonna go more realistic. It makes sense. I'm curious what it looks like. The other thing I heard was I want to say, working on like this whole wave mechanic, like for like beach.
I thought you meant like waving. I'm like, that was in Fable.
No, it's this whole like wave mechanic where the waves are going to be realistic, and people are like, oh, there might be surfing and stuff like that.
And then you combine that with the animation blocks and
Yeah, the other thing I was hearing too is that there's
Interesting.
going to be multiple like cities you can go to. Like you're going to be able to go to Liberty City, Vice City. Well, Vice City's in Los Santos, I want to say, but you're going to be able to go to like these different areas. You can go to like
Vice City's
airport.
supposed to be like Miami.
I know, but
Florida.
isn't it in Los Santos?
I'm gonna defer to our producer. He played a lot of GTA San Andreas.
No, San Andreas is in Los Santos.
San Andreas is Los Santos.
Which
No,
is
San Andreas is actually Los Santos is in San Andreas
yeah,
because San Andreas is supposed to be California.
yeah, and Los Santos
Interesting.
is Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, and Vice City is like Miami Vice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vice City.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think you're cool.
But
too.
yeah, you're supposed to be able to like you're supposed to be able to go to the airport and like
Yeah. You can go places.
go places.
And
we don't know
apparent-
if that's true, but
I heard that the
That'd be
planes
Oh,
are going
this is
to.
go.
Yeah,
the people you'll see.
I heard the planes are going to be pretty realistic too.
They're
So when you like
creating,
hijack them, you can like really feel like
they're creating this whole mechanic
Yeah.
where if you're like piloting it and you try to turn off the engine, you lose your
you lose your plane license. Yeah, yeah. There's like a whole system in the plans where they're like, you can't turn me off. Like, it sends a notification
dude.
to the FBI.
And then the flight control guy puts you in a circle for a while.
I think we can all
Anyway.
agree that we heavily digress on this topic. We shall see.
It was valuable, though, I think.
It was a good thought experiment.
Let's move on.
Development on Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree expansion is proceeding smoothly, according to From Software's parent company, Kadokawa. This is by way of Video Games Chronicle.
Word.
We're looking forward to this. That's about all we got with that one. Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing: is we could wax poetic about Elden Ring, but
Elden Ring's great. If you haven't played it, play it.
he's downplaying it. It's a masterpiece. Play it. If you think it's too difficult,
You're going to play it and you'll be like, wow, this is made.
I kept saying that I was playing. I'm like, this was made. And it's like he died. I'm like, this was made. This is crazy.
Next,
Yes.
we've got Alan Wake Remastered recoups development and marketing costs after 2 years. This is from Game Developer.
It was astounding.
The remastered version of Alan Wake 2... Whoa. The remastered version of Alan Wake 1 was launched back in October of 2021 and broke even during the third quarter of the current fiscal year.
Astounding.
How did they do it?
Well, they remade it and then they sold it.
2 games, 1 remaster. How did they do it?
How did they do it?
Would you like to take this next one?
I can. We got a little bit more Alan Wake news before we go into our On the Games. I figured this is good segues. According to Remedy's Thomas Pua, who's a community manager for Remedy, he said, quote, Epic Games was nothing but supportive. This is from a tweet on X. I'm not calling those X's. This is ridiculous.
This is an X.
This is an X. It's on X. It's a tweet. We know what it is.
Would you call it an X or an X post?
But
Or a post on X?
why would you? I'm not going to get into this.
They shouldn't have changed
It's a
the
whole
name.
thing. That's a
Point
whole
of getting
other.
that.
That's a whole other podcast right there. Quote, Epic's production team especially killed it on Alan Wake 2. They really care. Never have I read so much good feedback from Milestones and have producers play so much of the game constantly. So, Epic Games is the one that produced this. You know, if you're playing on PC, you can only get it on an Epic Games Store. That's where we played it on. And
That's where we're playing it on.
well, you know, we're towards that end there. We're gonna get into that in a sec, but it does show largely, like in most every regard. And so, with that being in mind, I figured that would be a good segue to On the Games. Okay, this is On the Games now.
Whoa.
Okay, it's crazy.
Dun.
Yeah, dude.
Exactly. Yeah. See, we're.
I
just,
felt that.
You always feel it. I feel like things kind of blur and then clear up, and then you're on the games. You know, it's just, and you're
I
there.
look at myself retrospectively, then I look at myself introspectively.
Mm-hmm.
It's an experience, really.
A lot of trospect, you know? It's crazy. So, we're going to talk about Alan Wake 2.
Yes.
Okay, this is a game that we've been playing since last week. We've gone fairly deep into the plot. So, did you want to give our listeners kind of a rundown of what the story is about?
There's a cult in Brightfall, and there's things happening. Ritualistic, supernatural things.
Some hoogity boogity?
And you're an FBI agent going in there, and you're just rummaging around. You're trying to figure this out, okay? And that's from one side of the story, because there's 2 characters you play as, okay? And that's when you're playing as Saga, the FBI agent. And then there's Alan Wake's side of the story, where he's, like, in the dark place. And it looks like, I don't know what city, but you're, like, in a city. And it's, like, really trippy, and it's really cool. It's kind of dark, a little cold, a little
Kind of
spooky.
psychedelic.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Very cerebral.
It's really cool. Like the whole art direction of the game and just the environments and stuff like that is. There's been a lot of games recently, honestly, that are like nailing their art direction, and this is one of them, like 100%. And so, yeah, I think that's like enough to give for the synopsis. Honestly, watch any trailer, you kind of have the synopsis, because where the story goes and how things unfold is really like the meat of the pie with that game.
Yeah.
and I don't want to give too much away. So
Yeah, we want to hold back on any spoilers because
because this game is like,
you're playing it for the story.
Yeah, like,
primarily.
it's-
You know, the gameplay is really good, but it's all in service of the story. So,
Yeah.
you know, an observation you and I both made, and we talked about it a bit, you know, while we've been working through our playthrough, but the game is, if you're not a reader, if you don't really like reading text, you know, exposition, you know, like storytelling kind of stuff, you might find this a little bit verbose, because the game is in its core, it's like a suspense horror thriller.
yeah, and I think that that's actually one point also to add to the story synopsis. If you don't know it, is like Alan Wake is a writer.
Yes.
And so the whole thing is like his story is, there's some supernatural something going on, and his story is like changing. Like he's writing stuff, but it's like getting changed and altered, and that stuff that's being written is being like, it's starting to like alter reality.
Yep.
And so there's like this, there's a lot going on. It's a very like,
It's a very complex
it's
game.
a very complex
Yeah.
story, and like it does a really good job at like telling the story. But it's like, I think more than saying like, if you don't read, you may find it verbose and stuff. I think like, check it out. Like, it, just know it's if you're going in for like shooting and like you're trying to play like a Resident Evil, it's not really like that. Granted, it is, from what I've heard, because I haven't played the first one. I have heard great things about it, and but I haven't played it. And from what I've heard, like, this one is much more like survival horror focused, where there is more combat and you're managing your ammo and stuff like that, and there is shooting and there is combat and all of that. But it's maybe like 40% of the game. Like, the majority is you like walking around, and like there's story beats happening, or there's like manuscripts you're picking up from like the story that Alan's writing, and you're like reading that, and that's gives you like information on like you'll find somewhere like you'll read it and it's like stuff you just did, and you're like, okay, so this was written already. Or you'll find some and you're like, okay, is this gonna happen? Like, and there's a lot of intrigue with all of that they do very well. And like, if you do read, I think you're gonna like absolutely love this game,
Yeah.
because it really like, when you're reading a book and they're talking about like, oh, like so and so walked in the room and they heard like a creak down the hallway and this and that and blah, and it's like all these descriptions of like the setting and like maybe like a sound and like that space and like stuff like that. This game, like, you'll have narrations of certain things while you're like experiencing it, and then there's parts where like there's moving parts to it, and I'm trying to be very careful with what I say, because
Yeah, this isn't a spoiler cast. We're not going to.
this is not
spoiling.
like, I'm trying to be very careful with what I say, because like,
Keep it up. You're doing a good job.
this is like such a unique game, and it's from what I've heard and what people were saying they're expecting this to be, like, it meets up with that for sure in the story department. In execution, it is like kind of very different from what I expected, and I've been like really loving it for that,
Yeah,
because it's very unique.
and it's to your point about like kind of like the split of the gameplay, like the way the gameplay is. You know, a lot of it is like finding the story bits through different means. You know, whereas like, and I think I agree with you on that, actually. You know, maybe like a give or take like 5% kind of on that 40 for like combat, but the majority of it is looking for these little story beats, and you know, okay, let me read that paper, that note, or you know, you're investigating, because as an FBI agent, you know, as I'm sure our listeners have guessed, like you're doing investigations like on these happenings that are occurring.
Yeah.
And you know, the world that you're operating within as the FBI agent, they have like sections that are open. You know, they're I'd say they're like mid-sized. You know, like on the largest side of small to like, you know, mid-sized, like kind of encroaching into that area.
They're
And
like kind of like winding areas,
yeah, with
linear
different paths, and Yeah, but
It's not necessarily open.
Yeah,
but it's like all these
it's-
paths in this area that you can just kind of keep.
Yeah,
going around.
exactly.
They
And,
wind,
like,
they wind and
there's a lot of like, okay, so you don't get a waypoint, which I think is like it serves to further immerse you. You don't get like this thing that pops up on your screen that goes, okay, go in that direction, and it operates based off of what way you're facing. Like, you got to open up your map. You got to like kind of catch your bearings and go like, okay, I'm facing in this direction, so that path to the left of me is kind of going to where I need to go, and you get to take that and continue the story and whatnot. It's got some side stuff, where it's like, solve this little puzzle here or there, or this little mystery. But for the most part, the majority of it that you and I have encountered, it's all been in service of like the greater story that they're trying to tell. Or not even trying, but they are telling through the game, because they're doing a fantastic job.
They don't try. They just succeed, dude.
And I find myself as a player going like, because gameplay is everything. We're playing video games, so you and I've talked about this privately. We haven't talked about it on the cast too much, but like, we are playing video games, so gameplay is very important. And when you've got like a story-driven game, the gameplay should drive the story. It should serve to make that story more engrossing in ways that you wouldn't get when you're reading a book. Mm-hmm. To your points about the visuals and the audio and the voice acting and whatnot. So it's got this thing where like you and I have yet to finish it. We're towards the end. We're like in that last like third or fourth of it, and it's been, on a story perspective more than anything, like just kind of eating away at me. I'm like, okay, where is this going to go?
Yeah.
Because it is really well told. And so
they really like in particular, they like command the storytelling.
Yes.
Like
and
it's not like they're
fun.
it's not like they're trying. It's not like they're like they want to tell this story.
Yeah.
It's like they're like, no, this is what's happening. This is what's going on, and these are the questions you're asking. And you want more answers, you're gonna have to figure these things out. And then as you figure them out, like a lot of times, especially early on, like they answer the questions with more questions.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, what is going on, dude? Like what is? And then now we're at a point where things are starting to get more conclusive.
Yeah.
And so we kind of know what's going on and where the pieces are and stuff like that. But it's still like, man, like I don't know how it's gonna end.
Yeah, there are certain things that like we were I would say like maybe like an hour into it, somewhere around there. And I kind of saw where it was going. And I'm like, I hope that that's not like the big reveal at the end of the game. But really, it was like a reveal right around the corner.
Yep.
And then from there, it just kind of blew out.
Yeah,
So
and that's something I'll say too. Like, we started the game, and I think for like time reference, it took us like maybe like a couple hours for it to like really grip. Because honestly, when it started, like I was intrigued, and then after like an hour, I was like, okay, like is this like all the game's gonna be like? Like this is like.
yeah.
But then like it like blossomed, and then it started like consuming my thought. Where I'm like, man, like what is going on in this freaking thing? Yeah. And I think more specifically than just like a time reference, like once you get, and it really did take us like a couple hours to get to this point. Once you get into like Alan Wake's, because you don't start with Alan Wake. But once you get to playing as him, and then you just start going through that, like it really like quickly takes off.
Yeah, so it's like Saga, she's got like those like interconnected, medium-sized like areas that you can go through, and then Alan Wake, his thread is more linear.
Yeah,
and
it's like there's like this like part of the city. If this is the way it felt, at least like part of the city's kind of like a hub.
Yeah.
Where like, and over time, like you realize these different linear paths kind of connect, but they all kind of, once you go to one of them, they go linearly through.
Like, dare I say it almost feels like kind of Metroidvania-esque, because it's like you'll get a certain ability or a certain plot element or whatever it is, and then it'll change some of the approach of like the area. Certain things will move around.
To the Metroidvania,
that building in the corner that was just like a tower is like now turns into some other thing, and that's how it pushes along the mystery of the story,
Yeah.
I found all those parts really engaging. And I did have a note here about like, what parts were tedious, and I wouldn't say they were flat out tedious.
They just weighed more.
It had some tedium to it, and that kind of weighs into the whole, I guess, like the asterisk to everything we're saying is like, just keep in mind there is like, I don't want it to dissuade anyone from playing, but there is a lot of reading. And along with that, there's this mechanic that occurs for Saga, like the FBI agent, and as well as Alan Wake, the writer, where they have like a mental, like, for her, it's like a mind room, you know, like where she goes to, where she's able to kind of recede into her mind and like visualize this cabin where she's doing all of this, you know, this plotting of like the elements for the solving of the happenings, as we're calling it, you know. And for Alan Wake, it's like the writer's room. That's like he recedes to in his mind, where he's like, okay, I'm over here and I'm writing this out and I'm feeling this out, like how would this plot advance here, where would this go? And in particular with the FBI agent, like with Saga's side of things, you know, as you're going around and you're finding these little papers, or you're opening up a computer and you're like, okay, here's like this email, and or you look at this thing on the floor and like you get like these little Polaroids and you get like little notes and little things that she discovers as part of the investigation. And then you get to go into like her mind room and like plot these out per case. And you've got like a file cabinet with all the cases, and those grow as the game progresses. And
There's
then
like side cases too.
yeah, and there's side cases and stuff, like your side missions kind of thing. And then you've got this whole wall where it's kind of like when you see in the movies where it's like, you know, they've got all this string
cork board
and cork boards and all. She does that like against the whole wall. And sometimes it's like, it's really useful for the whole plot. Like it's a core mechanic of the game. It's very important. But sometimes it's like you go for 5 minutes and you get like 8 elements to like pop up on the board, and you're like, okay, you pop in and you like plot all this out, and then that gives you some info and that unlocks gameplay options for you to like talk to a certain person and ask them a different question, because now in game she figured out that little bit about the investigation. Then you can go talk to that person, or you can ask a certain question, or you can input the code, and you'll go and do that, and you'll ask a question, and then you go to like this other place, like, you know, like 5 minutes later, and then you find like another group of like tidbits of like evidence, and then you're like back in the room, and there's a lot of jumping in and out of that, and they did, I think, the best that they could with that whole concept.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just sometimes you want to see the story progress.
You just want to move forward.
And you just kind of want to move forward, and you find yourself like, there's times, dude, where like you and I would get like so many parts, and it would be like all these bits of evidence for like one case, and then a whole other group for another case, and then
and there's like all these,
you know,
different,
they'll lock certain bits of evidence for later because you haven't unlocked on the progression of that evidence, that case.
Like, question that's the answer.
Exactly, and then you can apply. So that can get a little like sometimes where you're like, oh, I kind of want to just get to the next thing, but
yeah, I agree. This is the thing I'll say is like, when you get evidence, put it on the board.
Yeah, just do it.
Because when it got tedious is more than anything when I was like, it's probably just a couple pieces of evidence. And then I keep going. And then I go a little bit more. And then I'm finally like, all right, I should probably put all that evidence I've been gathering this whole time.
Yeah.
And then now I've got like 8 pieces of evidence per case of like my like 4 or 5 cases that I'm like, I've been picking up shit for.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it can take a while. And in particular, there's certain things people will say that'll like answer like 8 different questions for like 8 different cases, or like not either, but like 5 different cases or whatever. And so there's a mix of it where it's like sometimes you wait too long and then you get a lot of pieces, and sometimes someone will say something really pivotal and like then you get a bunch of pieces again from one person saying something.
So like one sentence with like 5 key pieces of info.
And I agree, they did the best they could. I can't think of a better way, to be honest.
I can't either.
And I think the next question is like, okay, well, like, what does it give you for how well that they did it? And I'm like, honestly, like, it gives you tons of context and exposition that is like really necessary to like understand how all these different pieces are moving. Because that's the thing too, like the game has a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Like a lot of characters, and they're all very memorable. Like I can't think of one character that I was like, oh, that character, they didn't need that character. Like every character has its place and its little reason for being in the story. And, you know, some of them you meet early and you don't find out till later. Some of them you meet later and, you know, you find out pretty quickly what their purpose is and what they're doing, and it's just it's honestly it's just such a well told story, and it's really like it's really cool. I really like it.
What would you say are like some of your favorite parts of the art direction, and like the way that they tell the story?
I think just like the game's very like filmic, you know, and like this is one of I usually on every game turn off film grain and like motion blur, and this game I just felt like I shouldn't, because I'm like it's supposed to have all of that, you know, like I like I'm playing like playing Spider-Man, like I just turn it off because I'm like I don't care, like I just want to not see those things. But like albeit like the film grain and like motion blur, they do cover certain things. And in this game, I'm like, I should just leave it, because the thing too is the game has like live action seated like within the whole
Everywhere.
game. Yeah, and it really does do something to your brain, and it does add to the whole like just fidelity of everything. Like weirdly enough, you know.
Yeah. There's parts where the game straight up looks like real.
Yes.
And there is one section in particular. I'm gonna give zero spoilers for this, and I think you already know where I'm headed with this. But like, there's this one part in Alan Wake's threads in particular,
I know,
where oh my gosh, like you guys nailed this. Like this was like
and they went so long.
And here's the thing
And
too for me.
it wasn't too long though. It
Is
was like,
I find myself like I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it yet, and I think it's because everyone recognizes how special this kind of thing is, and especially if you've been playing games for a while, you don't see these kinds of things occur very often in games. Like I very easily can say like if you can put it in your mind to say like okay, I'm willing to read a little bit more, and I will enjoy it. I just gotta make sure that I know, like, if you play games that it's like you're just shooting things and you're not like really reading a lot. If you can get past that and you can accept that, and accept that the first hour or so is, let's be honest, any book, any movie, any show where there's like suspense, thrilling, and like intrigue and all that, it's a little bit slower at the beginning. It's a little bit of a build up. You're in for like such amazing set pieces, like story beats, and like this one section so far, I'm like that's up there with me for like okay, like you got to play like Arkham Asylum because like the Scarecrow sections are just nuts, like stuff like that where I'm like it just sticks out in my head where I'm like that was amazing. Like the whole time I was just grinning that whole part was happening, and I think that brings me to the whole like
the design of it too.
The design of it and the way that they present the design is so elegant. It's very complex, but it doesn't feel like that, and you don't lose the immersion. It's like, it's just everything serves to like better seat you into this world and the story. So I thought that was amazing, and you know, in terms of what I think about it as a whole product, I gotta finish it. Like, this is one of those where I'm like, oh yeah, we're actually gonna finish it. For those of you who are listening, the reason we didn't finish it yet is because
the Room 665 bug.
Yes. So there's this
everyone
mechanic in the game
at this point.
Yeah, well, there's this mechanic in the game where when you're playing as Alan Wake, you unlock story elements, and you have to line up like two different realities in space in order to see through like a tear and see like some sort of scene play out. And then he gets, as a writer, this like idea for a plot element, and when you apply that in that writer's room that we were talking about earlier, it'll change the actual gameplay environment that you're in. So like if you're in a room, you know, and it's just a regular room, and then he gets a plot element for something, and you apply that, it's like that room if this plot was happening. Yeah, and then certain doors will open or close, or things will get blocked off.
There's certain areas that are like scenes.
Yeah.
And it's basically like what he said. Like, it'll be like doors boarded up, and it'll be like, oh, like a robbery or whatever. You know, I haven't seen a robbery plot point, but that
hasn't been a robbery.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, robbery or whatever, and then it's like everything, all the boards are broken down. There's no boards. The windows are cracked. You can see like,
so you get to this area where it's like the you have to unlock this echo, as they call them, in order to get that plot scene device like element so you can change the environment and progress. And the bug was that this element wasn't lining up because they weren't really spawning in the environment.
Yeah, they're just weren't loading up.
We couldn't progress the story. That being said, it has been fixed as of today. They did patch it.
Took like 2 days from when we found it.
Yeah.
I think like at most like 4 or 5 days for
like 4 or 5 days.
The first posts I saw were going up on like Reddit.
Correct. And so, you know, obviously that's a problem when it launches. You know, I got to commend them for fixing it as quickly as they did. You know, you and I were talking about this, and I'm like, you know, if they don't fix this within a week, dude, that's like kind of a big problem. You know, like when you pay money for something and you get invested in something like that, you just want to like run through it and you want to know what the story is. And when you got something like halting the progression, it's a pretty big problem. But that being said, you know, here at Two Souls, we like to be gracious, you know? And the reality is, like, Remedy seemed just as annoyed by it as anyone else playing it. I think they actually had in the patch notes that they said that this issue was really annoying and we apologize. So it's fixed.
That's
fixed.
Good. I think it was just so odd because for me, I'm like, the game is, you know, when you look at it from like a design standpoint and like all these mechanics, it's like very obvious what parts of it they did pretty simply and what parts of it they did very complicated.
Yeah.
Like in their approach, you know, like I think, and it's all throughout the whole thing, like from both sides, like Alan Wake, like the whole story plot element thing. I'm like, dude, like that's a lot of dev time to like get this thing to work, to get these like two realities, these little echoes to like line up and make that whole thing work, and to get it all to work together, you know, is like a whole other like hurdle.
Yeah, I could see so many of these little parts posing a problem during development.
Yeah.
And completely taking you out of the game or breaking it. The fact that they were able to ship it with all of this working as well as it did is really an accomplishment.
Yeah, and again, 100%. But that's also why I felt so odd, like hitting this bug.
Yeah, it was a real bummer, but I'm glad that they fixed it. They didn't take that long, so we'll probably give our if there's any updated thoughts this next week. You know, we'll just kind of quick insert into the cast, let you guys know what we thought. But that being said, though, yeah, I figure we can let people know what we think. I mean, I think if people are listening to the cast, I think they hear how enthused we are about this. The game is, and this is high praise coming in the year that this game came out, but I would say this is one of the best games that came out this year. Like, in like the handful of games that came out that I'm like, oh man, these games we're going to be talking about them for a long time. Like, I think this is one of those.
Yeah, I want to see how it all ends and concludes and stuff, but I was telling you this like a few days ago. But I'm like, depending how it ends, like, dude, this is like kind of like a Game of the Year contender for me personally.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a kid in a candy shop with this game, dude. Yeah. Like I'm really, really enjoying it, you know. It's like just for them to tell this story the way that they are with like the impact that it has, like they're hitting a really nice stride with like the balancing of the whole gameplay loops. Because it's not really like a gameplay loop. It's like there's like different little loops that are like all part of the whole.
It's because it's so story driven, dude.
Yeah.
You don't really feel, apart from the stuff we mentioned, like with the evidence and mind mapping and all that, like you don't really feel like you're like stuck in like a rut at any one point.
No, the game's very respectful of like you're just. I mean, like, it's really respectful of you not like having to go so out of your way for stuff. Because it's like the story's already complex enough. Like there's certain movies that are like you don't really have to do anything to get it to progress. You just watch the movie and they're like complicated because the story's complicated.
Yeah.
And like this is one of those stories where it's like the story is complicated to begin with. So like why do we need to make it so hard for you to progress through it? You know? And like they really you know hit a nice just like balance of all of that. But yeah, like it's a great game, dude. Like the whole thing, I'm just really enjoying it. You know, I think the only two things I ever like huffed and puffed about briefly was like
There's a one section.
was
You
like
get like a lot of manuscripts.
yeah, it was like the case mind mapping, because like I waited way too long, and then I opened it and I was like, oh fuck me, dude, like there's how many things for how many of these freaking cases, and I'm like going through it and I'm like, all right, whatever, and but it's like it wasn't even necessarily that I'm like I don't want to do this. It was more that I'm like I want to keep going, but like I need to do this, and I'm like, all right, let me just do this. And then it was like the same exact reason. Like I just wanted to keep going, but I kept picking them up, and I'm like, I need to hear what's going on with these. I need to read these. But it was like the manuscripts. There's a little section. I can't remember exactly where. Oh my goodness, excuse me. There's a little section where. Yeah, I just wanted to keep going, and there was like a manuscript, and I listened to it, and I'm like, okay, cool, that the plot thickens. Yep. Then I take a few steps, and I'm like, okay, there's another manuscript. I'm like, okay, the plot is thickening more. Now I want to get moving like even more.
Yep.
And then there's like a couple more manuscripts. I was like, oh my gosh. But it that's like the only thing, you know, and like it wasn't for bad reason. It's more just because of like how good the story is. Like I just really wanted to see what was going. You know, so like, you know, take that for what you will. Like it's not really like a complaint, but that's kind of the point I'm getting at. Like that was the worst thing I experienced, was like something you experienced because the story's so good, you know?
And I would agree. It's a very honed, very specific niche kind of, not highly niche, but just niche enough kind of experience where I think either you're going to not enjoy it or you're absolutely going to love it. So with that in mind, must play.
So
Just say try it out.
I think...
Where do you land?
I think, like we said earlier, if you read, like, check it out, you're probably going to love this game. I think if you don't read, check it out. It's a very unique, very special game.
Yeah.
You know? That being said, like, I think this is also why it's so good for, like, you know, at least for, like, me, I'm really enjoying it. And, like, for a lot of other people, like, the people who are loving it are, like, really loving it.
Yeah.
Is, like, the game isn't necessarily, like, I don't think the game's for everyone.
No.
You know, I really don't. I could see, I could think of a handful of people where it would maybe get, like, a little grating for them. Just, like, because it feels slow. But it's not, like, a slow game. It's not. It's just, like, different. You know, and especially if you're going in, like, expecting survival horror. Like, it's not really, like, a survival horror game. It has survival horror elements in terms of how the mechanics work and what you end up feeling because of these mechanics and stuff in certain moments. But it's more of, like, a suspense thriller in terms of, like, the kind of game. Like, and that's something that I'll say is, like, a little bit of a, you know, complaint, if you want to call it that. But, like, I think there's definitely a lot they do to try to, like, get you scared, but I think there is definitely a lot of openings of where they could have done certain things to, like, actually get you, like, really scared. Because I don't think the game is, like, I don't think the game's not scary, but I don't think the game's scary either. You know, it's more just, like, disturbing. And, like,
Yeah, it's suspenseful. It's a thriller.
It's more, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's really my thing. Like, I think it's 100% worth a try.
Okay. So you're at a try it.
Yeah, 100%.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a little crazy with this one. I'm going to say it's a must play. Because I think that if you try it, you're in for an experience that you probably don't even know that you're going to love. And as far as, you know, with us, like, talking about it next week, you know, maybe we might update our scores, but where I'm at right now, I'm at a must play. Like, absolutely have to play this. Like, there's parts of it that I'm still thinking about. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about right now. I've got certain songs stuck in my head. The game's like it's honestly a triumph.
Yeah, we ran into our bug, and I was super bummed.
Yeah,
and I was really sad. And I was getting a little frustrated because
I actually went over to his office, and he was just sitting there crying. I'm like, what is the problem?
I was a wreck for a little bit.
He was just hitting refresh. No news.
Yeah, we didn't have to wait long, but, like, I've been just checking, like, Reddit, and I've been searching just Alan Wake 2 patch notes to see, like, when the next patch. And, dude, like, I can't explain, like, I felt so, like, peaceful and so happy. I felt like I was at one with myself, seeing that there was a patch note from, at least when I checked it 4 minutes ago, and I checked it and I'm like, okay, where is it? And I'm just scrolling, and they're like, okay, we got it. Fixes for this mission, fixes for that mission.
Come on,
And
baby.
I'm like, come on, where's room 665? Where is it? And it's like, room 665, echo bug fixed. I'm like, yes, dude. I was so excited.
Yeah, he screamed.
I did.
So there you have it. You gotta check it out and a must play. We'll update you on that later.
You have a must play and a must check it out.
A must check it. There you go. Must check it out.
Yeah, because that's really, like, I think it's like you've got to check it out. Yeah. Give it a
keep
shot.
refining this out for you guys as we go on. But yeah, I think you guys are starting to get an idea of what we're aiming at here. We're not trying to. We don't want to attribute a score. We're just we're just giving our opinions.
We're kind of falling into our groove,
We're starting to get into it.
It's starting to come together.
So what you been up to?
Danganronpa got instantly put on hold once the Metal Gear Solid collection came out. And so I'm playing through that.
This is your first time, right?
For just the first game.
And the second.
And the second, yes. But
When they released that volume 2, eh?
Because what happened was I ended up playing Snake Eater first, and then like Peace Walker, and then 5, because 5 ended up coming out around then. But like during that time where I was playing through all those, I got like obsessed with all the story and all that. And so I was just reading through like every wiki page, dude, and I'm like, oh, this happens. Like, okay, oh, whoa, like, who's this person? And like, who are they related to? And like, what's this? And why were they? And, it's Metal Gear. There's
like
a lot of intrigue.
It's like jumping in a Naruto at Shippuden,
I mean, in a sense, in some regards.
I'm just happy you're playing them, dude, because
Yeah,
Metal Gear Solid 1 is I think is such a fun experience.
very unique.
A very unique game. I think it really stands out from the rest of them. And then 2 is just that like complete left turn, and I love that game. Like
I'm stoked to play
that game is so much fun.
I just think it's so interesting, like all the stuff they've done with these games, dude. It's just super interesting because it's like if you just kind of like, because I remember just being a kid, like seeing Metal Gear stuff, and then like walking in and seeing you playing the game and stuff like that, and like, who's the main character? And you're like, oh, it's like Solid Snake, and then like I'm like playing like Snake Eater, and I'm like, wait, but this isn't Solid Snake. And then like there's just there's a lot of little like intrigue and questions you start asking, and you look into it, and it's like, some people say it's like really convoluted for like no reason, and I'm like, I mean, like I get why someone would say that, but it's like it's there's a reason why everything's happening, It's like, you got like Liquid Ocelot, and it's like he's not really Liquid Ocelot, he's just Ocelot.
Spoilers.
I mean, these games are pretty old.
No, that's spoilers. This is what we're up to. You keep it light.
Still, there's a lot of intrigue, and that's my defense for not playing these yet. It's like I got like obsessed with the story, and I was like reading every wiki and watching every video explaining every little detail from like the Metal Gear games to the Metal Gear Solid games, and I was just like fascinated with it. Like 5, like it's so sad how 5 came out, because 5 is like such a interesting part of the story. And it's like your Venom Snake, which isn't Snake.
I got problems with that gameplay.
I get that. I think the bigger problem, more than gameplay, is like the story is like not even on the back burner. It's like across the street and like in the trash.
I got problems with the gameplay.
And then like you have to go, because the story's cool. Like the stuff it's going over, like the part of the story it's going over is like that one little gap that like we never knew.
Yeah.
And you finally got it, and it wasn't really there. You had to like really dig for it still.
Yeah.
But I could go on for hours about the story. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, we already went on for an hour, so we're not going to do that right now.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But what have you been up to?
Me? Yeah, just keeping up with my drawing studies. Been doing a lot more of that. Waking up at that 5 a.m. That's been fun. Get a lot of quiet time, a lot of time to exercise and move around and stuff. That's been good. Yeah, and then just reading.
Yeah, I woke up at 5 yesterday, and I just played MG. I played until
It's
like
like it's
10,
so
dude.
quiet, nothing's going on.
I didn't have anything else to do.
Perfect time to play.
I didn't have anything else to do. It was great.
Excellent. Well, this has been a good cast. This has been Two Souls episode 4. Yeah, you're there. Just give us a like, subscribe, a follow, mayhaps.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
You can find us on all social medias.
Yes.
Well, specifically, you can find us on on Twitter or X. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram. All of them are at Two Souls Podcast.
Excellent.
So follow us for updates on Twitter and clips from our show.
Yeah.
On the other two.
Until next week, have a lovely weekend.